Welcome to the Nerve to Lead podcast. Here we explore power, pleasure, leadership, identity, belonging, parenting, and couplehood, and explore stories of navigating through life, finding both authenticity and attachment through the common lens of the nervous system. I am your host, Sangheetha, and I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're going to talk about high achievers becoming and being parents. Joining me today is Vaishnavi. Welcome, Vaish. Vaishnavi runs the operations of Sangpath.com. She is the backbone for everything we do over here. And we've been working together for more than a year. And Vaish is also very deeply involved in the nervous system regulation work itself. And personally, for me, it's a lot easier to be in conversation with somebody. That way it feels organic and it flows. So welcome, Vaish.
Hello, thank you. It's lovely to be here. So today I wanted to share something that I observed. So I work with Sangheetha here, her home office. So I come in every day. I get a front seat to her entire interpersonal life, is her being a parent, her being a partner, and all of that. One of the lovely thing I observed one day was she has two children, Laya and Swara. So they come to the office room right after they finish their school, and we'll be working. One day, the younger one, Esther, she came upstairs, and she was very frustrated about something. And like she was basically throwing a tantrum. I think she's a 6-year-old. So I think she was, I don't know if she was hungry or angry. They have the term called hangry, like mine, hunger and anger. And I'm always amused by the ways they are able to articulate their emotions. So one day she was going through that emotion, and I think she had a homework to read something, and for some reason she doesn't like reading. So and that activates some emotion in her body, and she is communicating that and throwing a tantrum. And then I was very amused by the way Sangheetha handled it. You were asking her, so in what state are you in? Are you in I can state, or are you in I cannot state? And she's continuing a tantrum, and you have a very regulated presence. You don't have a very high pitched loud noise. You're not screaming at her. You're very regulated, and you're telling her, I feel like you are in I cannot state, and we cannot do this reading now. So you take your time, and you come back to me when you're in I can state, but I'm here to support you. And that was something that I've never seen. I've not seen an adult modeling that. So I would just like to talk about that today. Like, how are you able to have that kind, yet a very affirming voice to your child? And you're very regulated even when a child is throwing tantrum. You're responding in a very respectful manner, yet you hold your stand. How do you do that?
I think you caught us on a good day. That's one. So it's been an extraordinary journey to get here. And that doesn't mean that I respond like that all the time. I'm human, and I do go through many moments of dysregulation with them. And parenting has a really amazing way of triggering so many things that we didn't know existed in us, when we become parents. I think, that moment probably summarizes everything that I have invested on in the last 10 years, starting with the time before I became a parent. This whole journey about investing and understanding attachment and neuroscience and becoming a practitioner and all of that, I think has been worth it to have that one less yelling episode a day, if that. It's more than that. I think the amount of time that I'm able to stay in my body and stay regulated with them has increased. It's not zero. I do go through, it's a function of what I have in terms of resources and capacity. And
yeah, how do you switch that? You are here being a very good mentor and a boss. We are in a workspace. How do you do that switch? How are you suddenly a parent and still you're kind there too? How do you do that switch? How do you manage this?
oh yeah, it's been so much. I mean, you know this, you've probably seen this, but I say this a lot. So once I think I was doing a workshop on early attachment, breastfeeding, and gentle parenting. This was during COVID, and it was for an international conference, and I was there on Zoom in this room, and I was talking. This was early, and this was big, and I'm coming from a corporate environment where it is unprofessional to have children or anything come in and interrupt your client time, especially when you're talking, right? So I need the door closed, I need to be on time, and I need to do sound check and mic check. And, this whole context switching is very, very anti capitalist patriarchy way of working, right? Like, you think about our current ways in which the work ethic that we come with installed as default is this very industrial British, what's called Protestant work ethic, right? Where work is sacred, and work is different from life, and then life cannot be a part of work, and all of that, right? So I'm carrying all of these stories in my body. Therefore, when I decided to create a home office on this floor, I was driven by two desires. One, to be a more present and attuned parent and be able to maximize both aspects. And also, what I was not prepared for is how much the work flows in and out of life, and grappling with my own stories about that. So anyway, going back to that conference, I had backups for childcare for that hour. I had like 3 backups, and all of them weren't away, just didn't come through in that moment. And so my younger one comes running in, and she wants to be cuddled, and my older one wants to say hi to everybody on the Zoom call. And I was in that conference being the speaker about attachment and gentle parenting, and my body was so triggered, and I felt ashamed. That's how much this conditioning is deep, this corporate conditioning in me. And then, I just sort of laughed and said, oh, this is the irony. And I told them about the plans and how they fell through. And we continued that conversation. So this is a long way of saying that at every moment, I think I am unlearning a lot of what I was raised with around professionalism and attunement and all. So that's one, and I think it's getting easier with time. The big piece is dealing with the shame. I think parenting has a way. If you grew up with a very critical parent or both set of critical parents, this inner critical not good enough will kill you. It is there relentlessly, right? That's what pushes you to have all these achievements, but that literally screws with the way you parent or the way you show up as a spouse. Because when it comes to attachment, it is safety. But when you're carrying all of this, what's lying behind perfectionism is actually shame, right? So you are pre-programmed to seek perfection over progress. So it means that I might have been this regulated mother, 8 out of 10 tantrums in a day, but the one tantrum that I was dysregulated is the one that I'm going to psychoanalyze the heck out of, and also get so frustrated that you don't even want to invest in this healing process, right? So that's the pattern. And I think the more regulated my nervous system is, the more everybody around me is neurosetting that. So to answer your question, it is not always like that, but it is practice. And people say self-care. I don't know, what does that mean? There's no self-care if you can't deal with the shame, and the not good enoughness that the high achievers have so much of. It's crippling, so self-care looks very different for different people. Like if you come with that setting of this inner critical voice that's constantly claiming to push you, and you're dealing with that, then that's going to shame you for everything, including you didn't do self-care properly.
So yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. So I think the biggest piece is to understand and deal with the shame and get help for myself. I'm a therapist myself, and I'm a very strong proponent of therapists need other therapists to hold and work with, right? So to summarize, I think it's been a very long journey. For me, my triggers are when my daughters display traits that I am yet to reckon with in myself. For example, attention and focus is one, being messy, and the things about myself that, when I'm dysregulated, I'm all of those things. And I think those are some very shamed parts of myself. And then when you see this, and this is common in all of the clients that I see, usual triggers around this when parents get dysregulated in parenting, is the big three, right? So sleep and food, that's the big two, because both of those are attachment very early. Both sleep and food is very early attachment. And so these two tend to be huge triggers. And then the third one is academics / extracurricular, how they're the performance piece,
Yeah.
And then there are the others, strictness and all. But you know what? When you come from this, both people being quote unquote busy professionals, whatever tag you call it, when you come into parenting, I think there's either this I want to control it. The ideal is co-regulation and attunement. So when you're able to have that with your children, you don't need books or rules or anything like that. But in the absence of you understanding your body and your triggers, and in the absence of you having the empathy and the ability to attune to the child, you rely on external markers, charts, schedules, rigidity, control, and it's not an either or, right? You can have both and, you can have the structure and you can have attunement. I'm not saying it's an either or, but sometimes when this is not the way it is supposed to be, we might over rely on that, external markers. And because your early attachment was conditional on you performing, you might also find yourself turning parenting into a teachable moment.
Oh, yeah.
Like all parenting moments are teachable. So there is a moral of the story, and there is person or behaviors to be changed, blamed, critiqued, right?
Yeah. And the very famous your thing that I got it from you, connection before correction.
And now a small break to talk about more resources. We have created an autonomic safety assessment for parents, which helps baseline our co-regulation capacity, which is available for free to download and use. It is available as a link on the episode show notes. Now back to our conversation. Yeah, that's the thing. So when we struggle to connect, really body to body connect with children, nervous system to nervous system, then we default to correction. Everything is a should. And every time you hear a should, chances are there is a very critical voice lurking behind it. And underneath that, there is shame. So you want to think about shame. You need a percentage of shame to show up in the world, right? Which is called healthy shame. However, when you grow up in environments that prioritize achievement and performance, then there is usually a lot of very toxic shame Therefore, love, belonging is conditional. That's big T trauma for anybody who's listening. It's absolutely and okay for you to be extremely thankful and grateful for your caregivers, because that's what made you who you are in the world, big and external markers of achievement. And also come into this huge realization, usually in the context of either dating or finding intimate partners or staying in a marriage, or if that's not the trigger, parenting will do it for you. When you see terror in your child's eyes after you have just gone at it, that'll do it. That will bring you to the work. So talking about high achievers and they become parents, I think turning parenting into a spectator sport is a big one, right? We know that, the externally achievable markers, continuing, that. And it's not that in itself is a problem. What I mean by, I really want you to understand it, it's not the focus on achievement, it is the focus of achievement and love being conditional. This sense of I love you and you belong to me and I love you and I cherish you no matter what, sometimes is conditional or contingent upon achievement. Now that's the toxic piece. So not necessarily wanting the child to achieve, it is this piece, traumatic piece. Anyway, so turning parenting into a spectator sport, turning everything into a teachable moment, which means it's very hard for you to spend spontaneous time outside of structured activities with the child. And you feel like I can connect with you when we're parallel playing. You're doing a puzzle and I'm doing it with you, or I'm teaching you a new skill is the only way I can connect with you. It's a one-way power. I'm in control and I'm teaching you things. Therefore, it can come in the way of spontaneity and play. Because if we didn't have very early experiences of safe play, which is a blended state of ventral vagal safety and connection, and sympathetic activation, where we experience safe bickering, safe rough and tumble play, all of these are absolutely essential for, early nervous system development. And so all of these, spontaneity, creativity, being silly, having pillow fights, or all of those need to be planned.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Even play needs to be planned. If any of these traits resonate with you, then there's a lot that one can bring to supplement your current way of parenting. Like I said, it's not that the opposite to that is permissive parenting and do anything. And no, that's not what we're saying. So kids do need direction and structure, and for somebody to believe that they are destined for bigger and greater things, and for us to see what they're interested in and supplement them in that way. But if you come from this kind of background, that's easy for you. And the work is to actually kind of slow down and add this connection, spontaneity, and unconditional peace. Therefore, you can hold both of those together.
Yeah, that was lovely. So there are two perspectives in this, right? I'm not a parent yet. So I listen to this as how I should have been parented, or what sort of a parent I want to be in the future. And so, yeah, it's an early childhood thing to listen. It's very nice to even to hear you say, I love you and you belong here and all of that. So one perspective is that, and another perspective is if anyone who's listening as a parent, that will be a different perspective.
Oh, this is a fun game that we sometimes play in the night as we go to sleep. And they know what I mean when I say this. It's like, hey, what will make me stop loving you? And then we come up with all these crazy scenarios. And then obviously the answer is, no, I'm going to love you no matter what. And just repeatedly saying that over and over again in a fun way is that nothing's going to make me stop loving you, and I'm here for you, and it is hard, and I'm right here with you. The other thing that you may have seen through a tantrum is not that we need to be saints. We do lose it. So you probably heard me say this. And when the tantrum goes on for a while and I feel I'm reaching the edge of my regulatory capacities, I will also just name it accurately. So I will say, Swara, I can help Swara mummies here. And I find myself going to I can't help Swara mummy in a little bit. That really helps with really, it's like, oh, okay, and then she'd be like, Amma, can you help me calm down? I think she calls it calm down. I need help calming down. And that's ventral vagal, right? Where she is neurocepting my presence, and that help is available, that connection is available, right? Can you give me a hug? Can you help me calm down? That's ventral. That's her ventral system's coming online. And then that's the window. And then we co-regulate, and then it calms down. And mostly, a lot of times she forgets what she was upset about. And so that's a way of saying you don't actually have to have any answers. Problem solve the tantrum. You don't have to find out whether she's hungry or angry, or as much as, okay, this is a dysregulated child who needs connection. I'll tell you this, right? 60 to 70% of parenting, tantrums, child dysregulation, don't really have to involve a lessons learned, teachable moment, correction, because yes, behavior acting, repeated behaviors are important, but you'll be amazed at what you can do when you connect with them, because they know at this point, like a 6-year-old absolutely knows. And you've seen this, right? Like sometimes when we're doing this, so she's kicking me, sometimes I'll draw attention to that, but many times after I connect with her, she'll be like, Mommy, I'm sorry I kicked you. I didn't mean to. I didn't know what I was doing. And she really doesn't know what she's doing, because her whole body felt under threat,
Oh, yeah.
And not to condone that behavior, I will say that was not okay what you did. It's important to say that, but not in you're a bad girl. Yeah, it's saying that was not okay. And then over time, the work is for them to catch the dysregulation before it gets to that point and seek this co-regulation.
Yeah. It was lovely. So, thank you, Sangheetha.
Thank you for joining me today on Nerve to Lead podcast. The music you hear in this podcast was created by Soundcreed. You can find their link in the description. Thank you to Vaishnavi and Pavitra in Team Sangpar for producing and editing this podcast. Did this episode resonate with you? If it did, please share it with your friends, family, co-workers, or clients. We would also love to hear from you. Drop us a note on www.sangpar.com.